Thanks for coming out here. Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So first, a lot of people obviously know you around the industry and stuff, but just give me a little bit of insight on your backstory, where you from, and a couple sponsors and stuff.
Right on. Yeah. So I'm from Longmont, Colorado. I grew up skating, snowboarding, doing the whole thing, but not a lot of snowboarders coming from the Front Range. So I'm from Front Range, Denver area in Colorado, live up in Dillon in the winter. I'm 19 years old. I'm currently on the U.S. Snowboard Halfpipe Pro Team, and I ride for Never Summer 686 Giro Union. And yeah.
Yeah, congrats on that, dude. That's freaking sick. So you just talked about being from Denver. So when you were younger, did you live up in the mountains full time, or were you a weekend rider? Like, tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah. When I was younger, when I was really young, I wasn't as much into snowboarding. Actually, like we'd go every Sunday during the winter, but that was about it. And we'd just go up to Eldora, not like any big resort that had half pipe or anything. It was kind of just weekend warrior, just every Sunday when I was young. Then when I was 7, every once in a while we'd go up to Copper and whatnot. And when I was 7 years old, I was up at Copper and I saw all these kids like around my age on Team Summit actually.
Sick.
And then I saw their coats and I was just like, Dad, I want to do that. Like, I want to be riding with those guys. And then he like looked into the Team Summit thing. And then from then on, I started Team Summit. And then we were like, all right, how we can't afford to just drive up and down every day to like take you to practice, even if it's just on the weekends. I started off just doing weekends. So we started off by driving our camper and parking it in Tiger Run in Breck. And I lived in my camper on the weekends for 2 years, from like when I was 7 to like I was 9, just on the weekends, but campering it up in Breck and just did the Team Summit thing for a little while. And that's kind of how
Dang.
it took off.
And then you actually shortly after that, you got a place right on like River or Beaver Run, right? So then you were like at Breck
Uh,
all the time, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, so yeah, you were in Breckenridge quite a bit, and then when did you make that push to full time, and how did you know it was the right time to actually move up there? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want to snowboard a bunch, but how did you know that you wanted to take it serious?
I'm not sure. Like, I did the weekend thing in the camper for 2 years. Then it was just getting like a little tight. We were doing contests and whatnot. So we just had to like try to fit the family in when we could in the camper. Sometimes we'd get hotels. And then eventually we started like renting spots, like we could afford like condos and stuff, like you said, in Breck. And then since we had condos, like it was easier to like go up, like skip a day of school and go up on Friday. And then, it was just a lot nicer to go to a condo than a camper. So it started just like progressively being one more day a week from when I was probably in 6th grade until um, I was in high school. In 6th grade, it was like I was able to skip like 1 or 2 days a week, and I had like 3 or 4 day weekend, basically every weekend during the winter. Then 7th grade and 8th grade, like I really started competing. Like my parents realized that like, oh, he likes this. This is like what he wants to do, kind of thing. So then I started, did the first semester of school, and then second semester I did homeschool, and that's when I was able to like start living up there. I still wasn't able to be up there full time, like full time, but because my parents had work and whatnot. So I was up there almost 5 days a week, every week, snowboarding. And then I did that. I did first semester of school and then took off second semester from 7th grade until sophomore year in high school. And then junior year was the year I was put on the U.S. team. And that's when we were traveling all the time. We were going to Switzerland, going to New Zealand. We were kind of going everywhere you can go to snowboard all year round. So that's when my parents realized, like, oh, this is your thing. Like, you need to focus on snowboarding. We can figure out school, just do homeschool. And then we really started I lived up there with Robbie Meehan for a year, and that was when I started doing full-time. Then I lived with the Staveleys for a year. So just kind of bounced around for a while until my parents bought a place up in Dillon. And then that was right around the same time that I got my license and around the same time that I got on the U.S. team. So that's when I was like, now I can finally live up here, do school on my own time, get around by myself, and just like focus on snowboarding. So it really was basically from second or third grade until like junior year of bouncing back and forth from Longmont and Summit County all the time. And then once it was like junior year, then it was like, okay, you have a place, like just chill, snowboard.
Right. That sounds like, oh man, I bet that was nice just to not have to drive. And a lot of people don't know that drive from Longmont or Denver on a Friday afternoon is like, it will take you hours. Usually it's a nice hour, 10-minute drive, but it might take you 3, 4, 5 hours. It's kind of ridiculous. So you're talking about like you started when you were pretty young and you were with Team Summit and stuff. So going all the way up to the U.S. team, were you doing this on your own or did you have coaches? I'm assuming that you had quite a few coaches you worked with.
Jim Smith was the head of Team Summit at the time, and I didn't really work with him as much. I was working with Josh Moses. And Jim kind of left to start his own thing with ISTC, doing like a Grom program. And he just was invited me and said, hey, I'm not going to be on Team Summit. I'm doing my own thing. Like, would you want to come ride with me? And I was just like, this sounds like I didn't know at the time. I honestly had no clue like what the difference was but it just sounded like a cool opportunity. Like I was being invited to like come ride with this guy, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like that sounds fun. So
sick.
I started riding with Jim Smith, and the first 2 years it was just like ISTC thing. And then after that kind of grew into his own program where like you and Josh and, there was always a couple of coaches like helping out Jim and whatnot, but mostly from the time I was 10 years old until about now, I've been working with Jim Smith for the most part, just riding and really just riding, not even training. I don't really think it's training when I go ride with Jim. It's just, we just go snowboard,
Yeah, and if anybody doesn't know who Jim Smith is, he's a freaking legend of a coach. His style of coaching is really cool, and there's days where we're standing on top of the half pipe chase, and Jim will come up with my crew, and they'll say, hey, you guys want to go take some POW laps? So we're like, yeah, he just really has a cool like stoke behind it, and I think that's something that he just brings to the table that's incredible.
Sure.
Yeah, that guy. Upper Enchanted laps, dude.
Oh, yeah,
Ooh.
all day. Grew up on that stuff.
So leading into the U.S. team, how has that experience been, and what kind of feeling did you get by getting in that invite? Obviously, it's not a huge amount of people that get invited.
Yeah, so it starts off with the rookie team, and then you move up to the pro team. But to get that initial invite, you just kind of have to start going off like what you can. So you start off competing when you're young with like grassroots contests, like USASAs. They have them all around the country. Find your local series, get in that, start doing that stuff. Then you get invited to nationals. Then you get invited to rev tours. You start doing rev tours. Then once you start doing well and like podiuming and stuff in rev tours, if you meet the coaches and they kind of see something in you, then that's when they kind of give you the call. So I think I was 14 when I got invited onto the U.S. team, 14 or 15. And I podiumed at my first rev tour. When I was 13, no, it was when I was 14, I had an injury and I broke my collarbone and my humerus and my scapula. Nice. And was kind of almost out for that whole season. And that was kind of a bummer. It was my freshman year of high school and just had to go back to school and just was kind of bumming for a couple months to heal up. But, it's part of it. So the next year, was the first year I podiumed. First year I even did a rev tour, and I ended up podiuming in the Seven Springs one. And from that podium, I got invited to Junior Worlds in China. And then
Oh,
when we went to China, I ended up getting third there at Junior Worlds. So, I was interacting at this point with the coaches and started doing like pretty decent in these amateur events. And that at the end of the season, they just invited me on. Also, when you're coming up a little bit, they do these camps at the end of the year called gold camps. And they basically look for the younger talent and invite riders around the U.S. to come and just train with U.S. team coaches and U.S. team riders just for like 1 week. They put you up in Mammoth at like a hotel. And so you kind of like almost bred into it. Like, it just kind of flows in
right.
really naturally. It's not like one thing happens overnight and it's just like you won this contest on the U.S. team. It's like you meet the coaches, you work with people for like a few years, like probably from when I was 10, 11. I was doing gold camps all the way until I was 15, and then I got invited on. So that's when I got invited onto the rookie team, and then, yeah, that's when I started working with Spencer Tamblin.
And that's something I think a lot of people don't understand is they just think it's an overnight success and all of a sudden you get on the US team. But you just talked about how you were 10 years old trying to get in the pipeline and then it took a couple years to finally get there. And obviously you're there now and still killing it. But it's crazy. People just don't really see that. They just
Mm-hmm.
think that all of a sudden you're just a good snowboarder and you get on. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
take a step back real quick. You talked about an injury. You broke your collarbone and your shoulder. So when you're going through that process, obviously it's pretty scary and stuff, but how did you overcome that fear? A lot of people that snowboard, that man, they're gonna have those bumps and bruises, but how do you bounce back? What's your tactic on that?
This was the first time I've ever broke a bone, and I broke three bones at the same time,
Oh,
and
dang.
just like completely knocked myself out. Like it was a pretty serious injury. I didn't need surgery, luckily, but it was a pretty serious injury, and it took like 6 weeks, I think, to heal. So at this point, I was snowboarding full time, doing rev tours and whatnot, and I was in high school and I thought I was taking the whole semester off. And then I was snowboarding one day in the pipe, just warming up. Felt like a good day. Did a nice front five, one run. Then the next run, I was like, all right, I'm going to go send a front five, first hit. Everything went fine on the front five. And then I honestly don't really exactly remember what
Oh,
happened, but I think I just over rotated a little bit and caught my toes right in the low tranny and just like boom.
oh,
So that's what did it. And after that, it wasn't the pain that was like, scaring me. Like the thing that just sitting, like when the doctor was like, you have to take this whole season off, basically. That's when I was like, bro. And that's what hurt the most. And then I remember I got home, and then the next day I was on the couch, like the next day, first like day in the sling, I was on the couch, and they're like, Copper reported 30 inches. And I was like, oh my gosh. So just like sitting there on the couch, just while all your buddies are learning new stuff or riding POW and just having fun, and you just have to go back to school. Like, that's what I was just like, that's when I know I was just like, I want to just be snowboarding. Like, so that was like my main focus was just like get strong, heal up, and then go get after it. Like, you want to be snowboarding. It's not like that scared you. Like, yeah, you have to. Once I got back snowboarding, it was like that did scare me a little bit to like do another front five, but it's just one thing that you have to just overcome, kind of like in your head mentally. It's just you have to go do it and not think about what happened in the past. Like, that was just one minor mistake, and I feel like most people are always like, "Oh, what you do is so dangerous," and is it even calculated? Or are you just hucking? Or like, I just feel like no one really knows where we're riding at all the time. I feel like we're riding on such a fine line of everything we're doing is super dangerous. But like we've said, like we've been doing this since I was like 7 years old. I've been practicing tricks all the way up to these bigger tricks. So it's all very calculated at the same time. So like, yeah, if you're one little thing off, you can destroy your shoulder. But 90% of the like 99% of the time that you're snowboarding, you're on and you're just clicking your stuff. So like you don't even really think about what happened in the past or what's going on. Like you're just like focused on the moment because you know like if you're not 100% there, then you shouldn't be doing it, kind of thing. So that's kind of just where my head's at all the time, and that's just the way that I go about my riding and overcome whatever happened in the past.
Right. And I've seen you ride for a while, and you're pretty freaking good. So at one point you can go from 7 to 9 and you just add a 180 to it. It's pretty logical. It's pretty easy to feel that like next step. But there's a point where you're gonna go throw a crippler, and then you got to go dub crip or front dub 10, and you got to dip it twice. So how would you approach that? Because you can't just do an extension of this trick. You have to add a full 360 and not just a little bit. So yeah, what's your approach these days, and is it different than what you used to do in the past?
Um, when I learned doubles to begin with, I tried a lot into the bag because now they have airbags on the half pipes and whatnot, and that's just like the easiest way to feel what it's like going upside down twice on a snowboard in the half pipe. You're not landing back in the half pipe, so you don't have to worry about decking or really landing it again, but you feel exactly what it's like. And you know, you've done, when I went to go do a double, it was the same thing. It was at growing up, it was just like 5, then you added a 187, then you added a 189, then you added a 180 10. So I was doing 10s at the time, and you know, it's just like I had crippler 7s down, I had 9s, 10s, and I was just kind of like, you know, the next step for me is front double, like it's time kind of thing. So what I initially did was I hit the bag a bunch and, you know, just felt the feeling of going upside down twice because I feel like that's the biggest thing. But you can't, I feel like for me at least, is if I hit it too many times, hit the airbag too many times, I get stuck on like muscle memory almost of just like going into the bag. And it's almost scarier to go from the bag to snow than rather just like doing your tricks on snow when you're just in it and you're like, all right, I need to just do this. Because, you know, it's calculated, you know, so whatnot. You just add a 180 or whatnot. But I think it's easier for me when I'm doing 10 to go to 12 to just like not think about like going into the bag first, to just like do a couple 10s on snow, do a couple 9s on snow, do one more 10 on snow, and then go 12. Like if you're feeling it, you're feeling it. But definitely when I was first learning doubles, I did hit the bag a bunch, and that helped me for sure.
Yeah, so it sounds like what I'm getting out of that is like, okay, yeah, it's good to get familiar with the movement, but then you get too comfortable.
Yeah.
And because you're getting too comfortable, now you're building this fear of like, crap, I have to go back to snow. I've heard a lot of people really love airbags, but I could totally see that you just get stuck in that frame of mind, and all of a sudden you still eventually have to put it to snow.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
It's cool that you don't want to go, you don't want to step away from snow too much or too long, and then so it's like still relevant and stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously we talked about pipe a lot, but I've seen you do a bunch of slope style stuff and back country and stuff. So how do you stay so excited about snowboarding? You've been at this game for a long time. How do you stay so engaged in it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I'm home and I'm not traveling with the team or there's not a big contest coming up, I cannot ride that. I'll just not even, I'll cruise through the half pipe, but I won't even focus on half pipe for like a couple weeks, and I'll just go have fun. Like snowboarding isn't just half pipe. It's not just doing your tricks and winning medals. It's just having fun and enjoying what you're doing with your friends and just feeding the stoke kind of thing. So when I'm home, I like to just go ride copper, do full, upper enchanted laps, get it all in, get some like little backflip onto the, little jump or hit
Yep.
slope, then go through the pipe. You can do whatever you want. Or yeah, we do a bunch in the backcountry, do some photo shoots back there. We'll do stuff in the street every once in a while. I don't get in the street a ton, but I just really like and enjoy riding everything. Like half pipe, like I said, isn't the only thing that I see in snowboarding, but that's where my main focus is for contest.
Yeah, that's sick. That's sick to hear. And a lot of people are just become so focused on one thing, and that is the result, and you put all your confidence on that result. But it sounds like just having like pure passion for the sport really is important at that stage or at any stage.
Mhm.
So then jumping back into a little bit more of the competition scene, obviously you've competed at a bunch of different events. How do you handle that pressure of being at the top of a Grand Prix, US Open or even your Junior World experience? How do you handle that pressure, and do you have any tactics to handle that?
I mean, it's hard for everyone. Like, it's never easy. It's never just like I don't think I've mastered like going into contests or anything, but like one thing that helps me calm down is kind of like which I do it naturally, and I never noticed it until Paul Krahulik actually pointed it out to me. But since I've been like really young, I would yawn before I would drop in, and it just like naturally calmed me down a little bit. So like honestly, like yawning, getting some oxygen to your body, like that's just one thing that just calmed me down. And I never even knew I did it until I like pointed it out, and then I was like, okay. But mainly it's just like doing your run and doing your tricks. It's just like you got to do it a bunch, and you got to know like you have every trick. Like one of the things Jim says before you drop is like all tricks and you've done these tricks multiple times. You've done this run multiple times. It's nothing different. There's a bib on, and like this run counts, but it's just basically like, all right, you just got to put it down right here. It's everything you've done before, so it's not like you're just going into this blind and you're just like, all right, we're just going to send it and hope for the best. It's kind of just like, it's so calculated that it's just like everything kind of just clicks.
That's sick. What's your favorite event of the year?
I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, US Open's super fun, but I'm like, that's probably my hardest contest for me to like get my stuff together and kind of put stuff down. I haven't been able to like put a run down. It's something that's kind of I've been having trouble with, but that one's just a really fun contest. And then I'm not sure, like they're all pretty good. All the contests are usually pretty fun.
What about that?
Locks Open is probably one of the sickest because you're just in Switzerland and the pipe's
That's
sick, the weather's normally sick, the POW is sick, the mountain's sick. Everything about Locks is super fun.
Right. And the people are probably wondering themselves right now, like, what do you think it is about the US Open? Is it something that you're building up in your head? Is it the conditions? Is it the pipes gnarly? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, it's just US Open is one of those contests that you're riding on I feel like that I've been riding on like the thinnest line, and I've had a couple of decks at the Open, even in my runs, that have kind of spooked me a little bit. So it's overcoming that fear and just realizing that I have this. I've done all these I've done this. I've done these tricks. I've done these runs. I just need to put it down, and the judges are gonna like it. And
Yeah.
I think when I first went into the U.S. Opens in Vail, I was kind of known for like doing some of the biggest back fives ever. And I think when I was just the first two US Opens, I just was like, the only way for me to do well is because everyone rides so well at the US Open. So I was like, the only way for me to do well is if I do my tricks huge. So I kind of went into it just thinking like the send mentality. So I feel like it's just stepping back a little bit and like still sending because, that's just one of the pipes perfect. So like you can send in that pipe, but it's just like stepping back a little bit and just taking a deep breath, doing the tricks that you got to do.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that haven't been in Vale's pipe, something that I'll experience is I'll ride copper and I'll go a couple feet out. All of a sudden you go in Vale's pipe and you will literally add 4 or 5 feet to your
Easily.
same run. And you're like, what the? And it scares the
It's
crap out of you.
so steep. It's so fast. Like, it's honestly scary, like riding Vale's pipe, especially during US Open, because it's just perfect and so steep and so fast. It's honestly scary because you can go 30 feet out if you did. Like if anyone just like took the right line and just like didn't care, like you could go 30 feet out if you tried. But
especially
it's just crazy, it's just you're going so fast that like no one can almost do that because that just doesn't even make sense.
Especially with that drop in is like a mile long.
Yeah.
It's so big and you don't straight line into it.
No,
like,
not at all. You can slide down, stop. Like normally a copper pipe, you're just start from the top, point it, tuck, pop in and like pump, and then like you can get like good amplitude. But Vale pipe, it's like slide down, stop, cruise in, drop in, 18 feet out. It's crazy.
It's so gnarly, so gnarly. They do an incredible job, and for the longest time, slopestyle would always get snowed in, but pipe was always like a perfect 50-degree day, sunny, soft.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's the wildest thing ever.
Crazy.
What about that event at Loveland? I see you posting a bunch of clips on your Instagram all the time, and it sounds like you guys have a great time.
Love games?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a contest hosted by Satellite, and it's not even in a resort. It's on Loveland Pass. And so the day before, they've been posting for like a week or whatever, and they're just like, come dig. And they have as many people as they can come out to Loveland Pass, show up, hang out with your friends, and you literally just build 3 or 4 features, like good, nice features. We usually build the quarter pipe, the ironing board, and then this year we did a jump called Pocahontas, and we also did a regular footer frontside hip or a goofy footer backside hip. And yeah, so basically you go out there the day before, build it. It's all hand dug, nothing. You just go out there, man up, put in the work. You have like a nice 10-hour day of digging the first day, and then the next day, like 100 people show up usually, and it's just always a great time because it's so fun. The features will be super good for like 30 minutes, and then they just get trashed, and it's a little sketchy, and everyone's just. But no one's taking it serious. It's no like serious contest. It's just a jam format. Everyone just go have fun. Just feed the stoke, and it's kind of just probably one of the funnest contests all year. If you call it, it's almost not even a contest though. It's just like go have fun with your friends, and at the end they just give you cool prizes.
It sounds sick. I've actually never gone, and what am I doing with my life? It's like right there, and isn't it always over nationals? So it kind of conflicts a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, I've always seen a bunch of clips on Instagram and stuff, and it always just looks like such a good time.
Oh, yeah.
So let's dive into a lot of questions that I get asked would be about sponsors. Can you talk about how you got your first sponsor, what it was, maybe some tactics that you can let the young kids know and on that approach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, definitely when I was probably around 10 years old, coming up onto Jim's team and whatnot, I was probably 10 or 11, and it's the time like when my friends are starting to get sponsors and whatnot, and it's like I want a sponsor, but Jim kind of always told me like they'll come to you. Like the good sponsors, the ones that you want, that you'll build a great relationship, will come to you. And so my first sponsor, actually, I won the Xbox Junior Jam at the Copper Grand Prix, and then I was like aired on TV and put in the local paper. And then my Giro rep at the time happened to live in Prospect, which they get the Longmont newspaper, and they just like saw like this little kid snowboarding, like won this contest, and she just like dropped a note at my house and said like, "Hey, call me," basically. And I was like, "What?" Like, I didn't even get the note. My dad actually got the note and like sent me a photo to my mom and was like, "Chase got this." And then my dad ended up calling them and going over their house and stuff. And turns out Giro, one of the leading helmet and goggle, manufacturers for snowboarding and skiing, just happened to just kind of fall into your hands, just kind of like that. So from then on, I was like, all right, I'll just see what happens. So I was super pumped. That's how I got my first sponsor. And then after that, I was like working with Brooke for about a year. And then she was like, "Do you have any other like board sponsors or whatnot?" And I was like, "No." And she basically said, "Rod, K2, or Never Summer," and just like listed them off. She's like, "Which one do you want?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, and then I was just like, Rod would be sick because Rod and K2 would be sick. Like they make everything, but I don't know. I was just at the time I was feeling like Never Summer just because they're a Colorado like local company kind of thing. So I was like, I can go to their factory. Like this would be way like it'll be better. I just go pick up my boards if I want. So I was like Never Summer, and she just sent out the call, and that's kind of how I got the Never Summer sponsor. And then Never Summer kind of hooked me up with 686. It's kind of just all one chain, and once you're in it, it just kind of it all comes naturally to you, and it just all works out. So, I feel like sometimes people like go and push, like I need these sponsors. They like start working with someone, and then they just like throw too much even on their sponsor, and it just doesn't come as natural. So I just kind of let it all come to me and like let it flow super naturally, build a relationship kind of thing. And that's just kind of the way that I go about it.
That's sick. So what is your relationships with the sponsors nowadays? Are you having to post a bunch on social media and do that stuff? Is it results driven, or is it, hey, we're just super stoked to support you and you're killing it?
I mean, a little bit of both. Like they definitely love it when you're doing well in contests, and they love to like throw that up on their Instagram. And mostly it's just like, we want to be tagged in all your photos and videos. Like we want people seeing that you're riding our stuff and that you're supporting us and we're supporting you. So it's just kind of like they just want to hook you up, and they want, you to provide them with a little love as well. So that's kind of what we all do. And I feel like that's the same for about everyone in snowboarding. Everyone's kind of, they throw their sponsor a tag here, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, and it has to be a mutual relationship, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people are just like, I want a sponsor, and it's about me. But it's like, hey, we still have to do stuff to really stoke out the industry and keep growing that. And if we can get more people involved in buying that product, obviously they're pretty stoked on that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's next on the plate? You got any summer snowboarding? You got any tricks in mind? What's your plan for the next like 6 months until summer?
Dude,
or until winter starts?
I'm going to Woodward Copper next week, and then Woodward Tahoe the week after that. So like that's really all I'm doing for summer is just a couple weeks at Woodward, but working a little bit for my dad. And then later in October, we're going to Sauce Bay. They usually have an awesome pipe and jumps. It's called the Stomping Grounds, and they put on a super good camp. So we're going down there for a month in October. And yeah, so like that's basically what I'm doing for snowboarding. Going to be doing some dry land, skateboarding, wake surfing, going to Park City to do trampoline stuff and work out in the gym. But
Are you gonna hit that? Are you gonna hit that dry slope, my dude?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh man.
Not the biggest fan of this like Snowflex stuff, but that does look like a fun airbag. Because I actually have never even hit one of those jump airbags, like the jump landing airbags. I hit the sketchy one at Vail like a long time ago. That
Yep.
was like super sketchy. But like the real one, like I haven't hit any of the new nice ones. So like I kind of like want to do one and maybe toss some slope tricks, some jump tricks.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be sick. Well, it's been incredible being able to chat with you. It's cool to see you from that young kid riding with Jim Smith and then doing what you're doing today. So we're all rooting for you. Anything else you want to tell the audience?
No, just keep pushing. Just have fun. Like have fun. Enjoy snowboarding. Don't get too frustrated with yourself. Enjoy life. Enjoy whatever you're doing, and it'll all come to you as long as you're just having fun and enjoying it.
Woo! Well, thank you so much, dude. It's been
Yeah, thank
incredible.
you.
I appreciate it.